Welcome to MindCep, where we journey through the realms of mind and body to unlock the full potential of human wellness. Join your host, Alex Muir, as we explore transformative health hacks, debunk myths, and empower you with knowledge straight from the experts. Dive into each episode ready to flex your mind, body, and soul, because your ultimate well-being journey starts right here.
And we're live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the MindCep Podcast. This is your host, Alex Muir, helping you flex your mind, body, and soul. In today's episode 118, we're going to be speaking with Simon Arnold. Simon Arnold is the former podcast host of the Odd ADHD podcast. And now, for his upcoming new podcast, this upcoming January 2025, he's already released 128 episodes this year in 2024. He's all prepped and ready to go for the new year, for 2025, for his new podcast, the Top 1% Talk podcast, where he explores neurodiversity and business leaders, how they develop, how do they get to the top of their game in their field of industry, how to generate wealth, all amazing things. And just the and also we're going to dive deep into aspects of neurodiversity and how that plays into great leadership in business. And so welcome, Simon Arnold, to that MindCep Podcast. I know we did an episode and I was having tech issues, so I want to make up for that. So again, really sincerely apologize for that, but really appreciate having you on the show again. Welcome.
Thanks very much, Alex, for having me. Thank you.
It's an honor, and let's dive right in. And first of all, congratulations on your transition from, again, 5 years with your current podcast, and then transitioning to a totally other realm surrounding how the top 1% build their visions and their businesses and their respective industries, but also the habits of these people that are in the top 1%, and like how they think, what they do on a day-to-day basis, analyzing their habits, their getting into their mind, and then how their neurodiversity works, and how what you've learned in your podcast with autism and ADHD, how the world needs more neurodiversity. The world needs to understand people that to understand that neurodiversity is here to stay, and many of us have it, but it's truly understanding it. And because you've a large part of your the last 5 years, right, where it was surrounding autism and ADHD. Tell us a little bit about how you feel that that's going to help you in your new adventure of diving into the top 1%, and how neurodiversity can build resiliency, build better leaders for the future of business.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I did the podcast 4 or 5 years, 177 episodes I actually launched in the end, and cut it down to 128 just to keep it really specific. And it was actually the 23rd of September that everything broke apart, really, like after the ADHD diagnosis in December 2019, then the autism in July 23. I was offered a business, like a business project to do with a great lady in the US, actually. And she said, I think you're done with the ADHD and autism, and I think you should pivot and go into the business area. And Alex, I mean, we recorded an episode, didn't we, a while back before September?
Yeah.
And everything changed. I mean, honestly, I'll tell you a little bit about the triggering moment in a way in a second. One day I decided to stop everything with the neurodiverse area of autism and ADHD. And within 3 hours after that, just 3 hours later, my whole life changed. And now, due to naming issues, I called it the Top 1% Podcast. But due to graphical problems with the 1 and the percent and everything, running it by people, they didn't understand what it was all about. So now I've just called it the Business Podcast, and everyone gets it with the description. It's the same thing,
Yeah.
It's just a lot easier for people to understand now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Because like when, yeah, like it is all about like branding and like what's gonna stick and what's gonna people are gonna remember. Because if they remember it and it's easy to pronounce, it's easy to remember, then they're gonna think of your podcast first, right? And then
Yeah,
how your podcast is global, right? Like you want to be on a global stage talking to business leaders all across the world, US, UK, um Australia, Canada, right? Like I can totally see that and like, going global and because I feel like sometimes in North America we're so fixated on Western philosophy, Western way of
yeah,
doing things, and that's what my podcast is all about. I want to have people from all over the world. I want to have people that speak different languages. I want you to know nothing about me so we can literally meet in the middle and be like, hey, I don't know you. You don't know me. There might even be a language barrier because they don't know English as their first language. But I
yeah.
know that everyone has potential. Everyone has the ability to be great at what they do. It's a matter of putting the pieces of the puzzle together to figure out what that is for you. And that's what I love about podcasting, and that's what I love about content creation is like, it's like creativity. It's creativity from each and every one of us is helping uh, uncover the truest, most authentic parts of ourselves, right? And that's where neurodiversity comes in too. Like how we all think and
Yeah.
how we think, thinking differently isn't a bad thing. It's actually a good thing because it creates more compassion and empathy and understanding and connection. And that's why podcasting is such a great medium because especially on video too, right? On audio is one. I started on audio. You probably started on audio as well.
Yeah.
And then going to video, it's like a whole other level of connection, right? Like you're in the Alps and I'm in Canada, and it's crazy that we can have this talk. So
Yeah, I just wanted to give you, with the autism and the ADHD, um, I had some I spoke with about business and about leadership in the second season actually of 12 seasons in total. So it
wow.
started really early, and about season 6, I decided to call it Habits of Excellence, right? And so very early on, I was really doing kind of like the business podcast without knowing about it, and then just made the transition in September, and I've never looked back since then, to be honest.
Wow. Yeah, I love it. I love it. And that's something that I like, and I know all of our listeners and everyone is after is like really what it comes down to on a day-to-day basis is our habits, right? And sometimes we have years of conditioning of untraining that we have to do. Because let's say we have a lot of good habits, but there's some really, really bad ones that are like kind of sinking us or like they're anchors. So, from what you've observed from some of these top leaders in their industry and in their field of business, what are some things that they've said of how they untrain bad habits and rebuild really positive new habits?
I just want to pivot a little bit on what you've said, coming firstly from the neurodiverse point of view as well, with regards to habits, and people do get it when I explain it. So if the outer world is too loud for us, really, we're saturated. Our nervous system is saturated, and it can't take much more in. And what I've said to a lot of people is how we get by with being neurodivergent and then business leaders is the fact that once we have found medication or whatever helps us, dampen down this nervous system, you'll be surprised that actually not many habits actually exist because due to the outer environment, they haven't had the chance to form before. And with delayed executive function, so that could be memory recall, for example. It goes, it's kind of like we're fully developed, or maybe not even fully developed in the memory recall area at 25 to 30. And if there is no memory recall, it's then when you go into business as neurodivergence, you can basically hop on all the systems, which probably we'll get into a little bit later, that actually work and actually have no massive information that you need to relearn or unlearn, because it's never been there in the first place, because you've never had the memory recall. So that's putting in the neurodivergence and how streamlined we can become when we really hone in on a goal, if that's a good enough answer for you, really.
No, I like it. And that's honestly been my biggest challenge is and when you're neurodivergent, when you're someone that's neurodiverse, ADHD, autistic, the hardest thing is like you want to do everything, but you need to focus on one thing. And I've found that so hard for myself, and it has caused a lot of issues and challenges. Like you said, like our nervous system is already mega taxed because we're like when one person does something, they do a task, it's like, okay, I'm going to do this task. But when someone that's neurodiverse does a task, it's like the anxiety, the overthinking, the analysis paralysis. Like you want to do it to the best of your ability, but you're like looking at 1,000 different scenarios on how to do it, and that's sometimes right. Like that's what's taxing our nervous system and our mind and our memories. Right, we want to do well, but we're over obsessing about wanting to do well, and then we end up going in 1,000 different directions to try and hit this goal or finish this task or project, and then we end up being exhausted, and we're like, oh my god, like I got to start this all over again, and not tomorrow.
Yeah,
So
and I just wanted to throw in, there's 7 different types of ADHD, and the autism is on the spectrum as well, so you could be on anywhere on that too as a gauge. Yeah, just wanted to put that across. So but also I did talk to you about Mo quite a lot, actually.
yeah,
So me and Mo podcast, all HD, me and Mo, and people think it's still a bit frivolous at the moment, really, still in this day and age, that most people have the inner voice coming in when they're 8 years old, as a kid. And, it's kind of like, in a way, it could be your spiritual connection, or
yeah,
just kind of the connection with soul, really, I guess. And through ADHD and a diagnosis. So if anyone's listening with the ADHD point of view and is sitting on the fence about getting a diagnosis, if you meet your inner voice, you actually have twice the amount of help that you had before. In all different situations, when you're feeling good, when you're feeling down, when you're crying, when you're not sure what to do, it's your saving grace in a way. I just wanted to bring that up a little bit.
no, totally. And yeah, speaking of inner voice or like extension of self,
Yeah.
I've noticed that become more and more prevalent the more I meditate. And I think I remember our last conversation. You meditate every single day. And what was your like kind of duration of meditation that you do? I think you said you did quite a long session, like an hour or half an hour?
Yeah, I mean, it's transcendental
Yeah.
meditation.
Yeah.
And there's a book called, I have to see what it is. And they just basically, everything in your life is lowered, like visits to the hospital, visits to the doctor, if you do transcendental meditation. So I would wake up, and this is the really important part, actually. I shift from the melatonin state to serotonin, because that's what happens with the waking up phase. And that's why you're a little bit groggy in the morning,
Yeah.
because I don't drink alcohol or anything, or do that, and but if you've got to bed on time and it's like 7-8 hours and you feel groggy, it's because the melatonin hasn't kind of shifted to the serotonin state. And that's why I do the hour of meditation in the morning. and then I shift it around in the evening to go from serotonin to melatonin so I can get a good night's sleep. So that's really the basis of it.
Yeah. And I was doing research on that as well. And yeah, like to wake up in the morning, yeah, it's like that serotonin, right? But like it's just the meditation first thing in the morning, it does help you really like ease into that serotonin so you're not going like fight to flight so quickly upon waking. And that's why, yeah, it's like such a good idea to like, even when you're just in bed, you're about to wake up or your alarm went off. I still like to like yesterday, still sat in bed and then did a 20 minutes, right? Like, and then I'm like, oh, that's
Right.
way, and then it's like frictionless. It's more seamless. And then you just feel like, okay, I'm ready to tackle the day.
Yeah, and to start with, well, for the last 5 years I've been doing it, and I would write all the notes down on paper just to remember what's coming through. And for the last week or so, I just feel it in the body, like
Yeah.
they say in the temple, right? In the
Yeah.
body temple.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a lot of things have changed recently, but you have this inner knowing of what to do and what feels good for you, and then your life gets ultimately better, really.
Yeah, totally. It's like a newly developed and enhanced intuition around surrounding yourself, like
Oh, I like that.
knowing about yourself and like what you want to tackle and what you want to focus on. It's like you feel like way more
Yeah.
dialed in. Yeah. And yeah, speaking of
Yeah.
being like dialed in, yeah, what was one thing I want to mention? Yeah. So you talked about that, like kind of like how your friend or your colleague, they you should pivot into business because you've been kind of doing it all along, right? Like you've been studying these people that are neurodiverse, and a lot of them are in business, are the field of business, and they're business leaders. Um, so like, what sparked your interest in studying the top 1% and people and leaders in business and philanthropy? Because you said you touched on it
Yeah.
briefly, but was there another catalyst, or you're like, I have to make this switch? Because I remember when we were
It was,
chatting.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was a huge explosion. I mean, it was the end of September, and I'd met a lady just off. It's kind of like serendipity, just came into my life, right? Out of the blue, no warning. We got on really, really well. And we did a small business project, first of all, and I could use my journalism skills because that's what I trained for to start with. And then she said, wow, you're doing really well on that. I've got a big project. It needs to be done within a month, but I think the two of us can do it within a week. And she changed over. She was in America. Um, she actually changed her time, her awake and sleep time to Germany. And we cracked out this business project within 90 hours in a week. So we were pulling 15-hour days. I was using my journalism skills to the max. And I really just fell in love with the nostalgia of what it was like to be a journalist back in the day in the courts, at Gatwick Airport, for example, London, just on the outskirts of London as well, and just taking some really heavy cases on and really loving that. And with my, neurotypical brain, neurodiverse brain, just exceedingly fast at just chopping down words and making it into a story and everything else. And that's where it came along. And she said, you've got to go into business now, because I found that the neurodiverse area really concentrates on the disability of the condition without actually looking at the upside of it. And I've always been that way. And now I can actually draw out from people in a really nice way their strategies and the ways they operate in the business world.
No, I love that. And I remember it might have been a TED talk. It might have been a TEDx talk where I was like watching a YouTube video, and there's a like a business leader, someone again like yourself that specialized and understood. I think he was like in like a psychologist or something like that, but he specialized in ADHD, helping kids, young adults, and then yeah, adolescents and grown adults battle like with battling with ADHD, autism, and he says like ADHD, it can be a superpower. It is a superpower in a way because of our ability to like we're like witty, like quick thinkers, quick talk, like quick fast talkers, right? It's just part of
Yeah.
the condition, but he's like it can absolutely and is a superpower because of people are needed with that particular neurodiverse mindset. They're needed in certain industries more so because of that ability and that speed, right? Of recall and speed of getting things done. Like when we want to get something done, we can get it done. It's just a matter of right? The like the systems and the habits that we need to have in place for us to thrive, right? And he says it's understanding and learning about that. And he's like, if people can be more understanding on what we need to thrive, like we can become the biggest, and we are like some of the people that have ADHD and are autistic. They have some of they've become some of the greatest business leaders in the world and athletes, and like Michael Phelps, like one of the most decorated Olympians in the world. Like
Yeah.
he had ADHD. He has ADHD. He was on the spectrum. He's got ADHD, but was on the spectrum of autistic too. And he got like 8, whatever it was. Like I can't remember how many medals. It was a ton. It was like 26 gold medals or something like that. Like in the Beijing Olympics, it was insane. So
Yeah.
like it is a superpower.
I mean, with Michael Phelps, of course, ADHDers need a team behind them as well.
Yeah.
And with
Yeah.
Michael Phelps, I know because I've listened to podcasts about him that his day is split up into 15-minute sections. So he
Yeah.
knows exactly what he's doing at every 15-minute interval. When I spoke to Annie Bush, actually, a brain coach with ADHD, she said that, and this is what I'm getting onto now with the business podcast slowly, is so Annie Bush would say, yes, I need a team behind me to get all the paperwork done and everything done in her clinic. And I've passed through going off on a tangent, the first part of entrepreneurship in a way. And now it's developing systems to use, computer-based, cloud-based, AI, and also getting people in as well, is really the key aspect. Can I just say something as well, which I've really noticed? There's a lot of people. Donatella Matthews wrote the best book I find on systems thinking. And throughout it, she says you can work a system, you can have a product with good distribution and everything else, but if your heart's not in it, it's kind of like the inner voice telling you whether this is a good idea or not. And a lot of people are making a lot of money with their systems, and then they ultimately collapse and they do this eat, pray, love thing and go off, for around the world or go on a pilgrimage because they haven't found out their true self.
Yeah.
But the thing is, with ADHD, we do it the other way. We find the inner voice, and then we work out distribution, product, go for the systems, and it works completely the other way around.
It is. It's backwards. Like I keep having people say, "Oh man, like you're in the wrong vocation. Like you should be in personal training." Because like I have way more of I'm like my whole background's been in sales because people in ADHD do well because of our charisma and our energy, and so people are drawn to that. But in the inner core, that's not me. I don't see myself as a salesman. I see myself as a coach, a mentor, a leader, a guide, a consultant.
Yeah.
Right. That's way more me. Right. I'll guide you. I'll help you find who you really are on the inside, and will help bring that to the surface because that will make you have the most fulfilling life. I've been trying to find that myself. And that's like you said, like we're doing it in reverse. Like sometimes, something that's always stuck with me that my dad's always said, he's like, you don't choose your career or business, they choose you.
That's true.
So, and that's what's happening is like, I'm kind of having kind of a midlife crisis where it's like my truest self is coming to the surface of who I've always wanted to be. But I'm just, it just takes a little finessing, right? Because I got to re-educate, I got to reskill. I got to take the couple courses. But I know, like I have a very clear direction now, like because it was kind of muddled. When your direction's muddled, it's difficult, right? Because you're like, oh my gosh, like I know what I want to do, but what's the best path to getting there? And it's way more clear now because it's really listening to the heart, right? What the heart wants and the intuition.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up on that as well. So our bodies work in 7-year cycles. It's a bit strange during the teenage years, but we spoke about meditation to start with, and it's between, I think, the ages of 45 and 52. And we've got chakras in our bodies as well. So basically, I just wanted to explain it really quickly.
Yeah.
We've got this supraspinous fluid within our spines. And when we do the meditation, it basically rises through the spine. And when we get to 52, basically the temple is up to the age of 52. So the temple is fully working, and then it goes down back through the chakras again. So if you're between the ages of 45, 52, meditation is going to help you. This is the best time of your life to do it, and it will open everything up for you, really, in life.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, sometimes everything in life is about timing too. All right. So because I've only got 5 more minutes in this, let's just close it out here. And then again, how can our listeners reconnect with you, Simon? Because I know you've made the transition from the Me and Mo podcast to the Top 1% Business podcast. Where are you most active on for platforms? And how can our listeners reach out to you, get to know you?
So the AuDHD for autism ADHD is on Spotify and all channels. And the business podcast is just on Spotify, actually. I've really closed that down and it's lovely. But you can find me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is really my just one and only social media channel, and that's just fine at the moment.
Awesome. Yeah. So I'll definitely be turning this episode, right? It'll get us a bunch of clips. I use Vizard.ai, and it usually creates 30 to 40 30-second clips. So I'll be record. Yeah. Once this recording's done, I will plug that in, and then I use Riverside.fm to do the full episode. So that'll go on Spotify, that'll go on YouTube. And then looking forward to sending you all the clips. Yeah. Takes a few hours to download them all individually, but at least I'll get I'll get you 5 to 7 so you can share on your LinkedIn, and it'd be awesome to share with your listeners. Yeah.
Thanks.
And then
thanks very much, Alex.
Absolutely. Pleasure to have you on, and then we'll schedule in. We'll do another episode as well to dive even deeper and share more with our listeners.
Cool.
Right
okay.
on.
Thanks
awesome.
so much.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of MindCep. If you liked what you heard, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Your support helps us bring you more inspiring content and expert insights. Join our community on social media at mind.cep on Instagram, at mind-cep on YouTube, and visit our website, Alexander Muir, that's M as a Mike, UIR.com/blog for more exclusive resources and updates. Until next time, keep optimizing your mind and body, and see you in the next episode.